Indiana falls 72-59 to Oregon in the Big Ten Tournament second round here at Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis. Peegs.com's Jeff Rabjohns, Trevor Anishak, Jared Kelly here to break it all down. Rabby, another 4-minute scoring drought for Indiana. 10-0 run. Oregon goes on to end the first half. Indiana fought, most of the second half. Couldn't got it within one possession a couple times. Couldn't get over the hump though, as Mike Woodson would say.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things there were problems this season that have been problems during Woodson's tenure cropped up again. Another 4-minute plus scoring drought. As Trevor noted a week or so back, Indiana is among the nation leaders in having 4-minute or more scoring droughts. That's obviously not very good. That's a problem. They're among the nation leaders, I believe, still in number of 10-0 or more runs allowed. That's obviously a problem. They lose by 13. They get outscored by 12 from the three-point line. That's another thing that during Woodson's tenure, IU getting outscored by 3 by a reasonable amount has been a problem. It is a problem again today. So, in a way, this game, it was kind of it kind of encapsulates what's happened to IU a lot during the Mike Woodson era. It really has. You get outscored by a reasonable amount from 3, you have a long scoring drought, you give up a scoring run of 10 or more. I mean, nobody should be surprised at this. This is what's happened to Indiana way too much over the last 4 years. It happened again in the Big Ten Tournament. Indiana, once again, an early out in the Big Ten Tournament. I don't think anybody's really surprised. They just lost to Oregon. But the issues that we've seen for 4 years cropped up again today. So what happened? Another double-figure loss for Indiana.
Trevor, I don't know if it surprised you as much as it did me, but Indiana playing an hour up the road. Oregon has to travel 3 time zones away. Basically playing at like 9 in the morning on their time. Indiana just looked flat in this game from the start. You know, they did fight in the second half, but this did not look like an Indiana that we've seen down the stretch win 5 of the last 7.
Yeah, and I thought they actually played their best basketball early in the game where, they were making threes. Galloway hit a couple of shots. They were attacking the rim. They were scoring against Nate Biddle, who is, a big-time shot blocker, and they had a bunch of trouble with out in Eugene. It looked like they were going to be able to go to the rim and score today. From about, the midway point of the first half on, they shut them down again. Like, IU could not finish at the rim when Biddle was around. TJ Bamba comes down and, contest shots. So really took that away from IU, and then everything was inconsistent, like Rabby said, leading to those long scoring droughts. When you can't get Luke Goody open shots, can't get Mackenzie Mbako open threes, you're not getting great driving lanes. Galloway was getting into the lane, but he was still having to shoot floaters over guys. It wasn't like he was uncontested going to the lane. So you really had nothing to fall back on. Obviously, those big scoring runs for Oregon ended up deciding the game. But like Rabby said, it's the same stuff we've seen throughout the year, throughout Mike Woodson's tenure, and IU could not overcome it today.
Rabby, obviously the NCAA tournament was, looming large on this game. We'll see how much, the selection committee values a game like this. But Indiana, it looked like they were on the right side of the bubble, had a chance to get a bye out of the first 4. But after today, it's going to be a precarious situation for Indiana going forward on Selection Sunday.
Yeah, I think they're going to be sweating on Sunday. I really do. Oklahoma won another game the other day. Texas, Carolina, teams that are sort of like there in the same general range won a game in their NCAA tournament. Indiana did not, so there's nothing that Indiana can point to and say, hey, put us in over them because we did this and they didn't. I think it's going to be tight. We'll see. There's still some potential bid stealers out there. I think if you get one more bid stealer and teams like Oklahoma, Texas, Carolina win one more, I think it gets real dicey for Indiana. I really do. There's a chance maybe they sneak in, but only 4 quad 1 wins when a whole lot of other people have 5 or 6 quad 1 wins or more. I think it's going to be tough for IU. I mean, some people have the conspiracy theory that, the committee likes big name teams. But
especially for the first 4.
Well, yeah.
That's true.
For the first 4, if you can get eyeballs on the games in Dayton, certainly that's great TV. So Indiana does have the fact that Hoosier Nation is one of the biggest and most attentive fan bases. But as far as the actual basketball stuff, I think it's really dicey for Indiana right now. You could see them getting in, but you could also see them not making it. I think dicey's where I'm going right now.
It was interesting to see Luke Goody. Jared and I talked to him post-game in the locker room. Luke Goody completely broke down, Indiana's resume against the other bubble teams, that he's been watching those conference tournaments, know where IU sits. It's very interesting. Check that out. The video's up on Peegs.com to get Luke Goody's full thoughts. But he really broke it down. Might be one of the only teams that hasn't had a quad 2, 3, or 4 loss and still be on the bubble. Usually those teams are squarely in the NCAA tournament. IU took care of business against the weaker teams, but like Rabbi said, couldn't really get overwhelming winning percentage against the quality teams this year to really solidify themselves.
I think that's going to be interesting to see. Does the committee weigh, like, let's say there's a team out there that has 6 quad 1 wins and Indiana's got 4. Okay, how much does a committee weigh that versus what if that team that has 6 quad 1 wins has, say, a quad 2 loss and a quad 3 loss where Indiana has no big negative drag? It's going to be interesting to see how that gets weighed, and that's going to be up to the committee. There's no hard and fast rule that says this is weighted more than that. It is a decision, and it's one of those things where they're going to have to look at it. And I think the other thing that gets looked at sometimes, and I remember this from mock selection stuff, not all quad 2 wins are the same. Some are the top tier of quad 2. Some are the bottom tier of quad 2. So, like, it's not just the quads, not all quads, not all parts of each quad are created equal is what I'm trying to say. So there's a number of factors that are going to be interesting to see. How much weight does the committee give to either one of them?
That's a good point, too, because obviously Indiana has, the quad 1 wins, a couple of them, but they're not, top tier. I guess the Purdue one at home you could count, but that's been a problem for Indiana all season is they get these opportunities. They've had, 17 now quad 1 opportunities. They only won 4 of them. That's going to really hurt them come Selection Sunday, you have to imagine.
Yeah, and you look at that winning percentage against quad 1 teams, obviously not very good, but at the end of the day, like we've been saying all year, you got to get the 68 teams in the NCAA tournament. If there aren't bid stealers, you could have 2 or 3 bid stealers that hasn't happened yet, and IU could still be in the NCAA tournament. Now, if it gets to 3, 4, 5, now IU is probably looking from the outside in. But I think there is still some wiggle room for IU, even with a few bid stealers.
And that's another reason, non-conference wins can help you so much. Even if you just get one really good, like if IU would have beaten a Gonzaga, a Louisville, somebody like that, it helps so much because it's another quad 1 win plus all of that opponent's wins then are wins by a team that you beat. It helps you a lot. Like Ohio State is, I think they came in today in the 30s in the net. Indiana was in the 50s. One of the reasons is Ohio State beat Kentucky in the non-conference season. One win, especially 2 in the non-conference, can really carry a lot of weight for you. And again, I think everybody knows this by now, but the whole season counts the same as far as value of your wins. Doesn't matter whether it came in November or came in March. It all matters. So that's why good non-conference wins in November, December can be really helpful. And Indiana doesn't have any of those right now this year.
We'll wrap this up. I'll ask both of you the same question here, but Mike Woodson said post-game, obviously there's, waiting on finality for this season. Doesn't know. We'll see if Indiana gets in the NCAA tournament. If they don't, then their season is obviously over. Rabbi, I'll go with you first. How will you remember this tenure if this is ultimately the last time we see Mike Woodson coaching Indiana?
I think it's one of frustration for IU fans. I really do. Playing 2 bigs who are both post players, a good win here or there, but long scoring droughts, failure to go get good guards, enough good guards, failure to properly prioritize 3-point shooting in the year 2023, 2024, 2025. Just so many things that you look at and just say that doesn't make a ton of sense. And I think for a lot of IU fans, it's just frustration. And, Woodson came in saying he's all about winning Big Ten titles and NCAA titles. And their best year in the Big Ten was 12-8. And that came thanks to a generational talent like Trace Jackson-Davis. Their out games, out when they get knocked out, they got destroyed by St. Mary's. They got crushed by Miami. And last year they got, just dog-walked by Nebraska in the Big Ten tournament quarterfinals. And way too many double-figure losses. I think that's another thing that's just adds to the frustration for fans. There were just too many games where where IU just got thumped. Everybody knows the list at this point in time. But, 25 to Iowa, 25 at home to Illinois. There were too many moments where IU was just not a competitive basketball team. And I think overall, for me, I think what you hear from most fans is just frustration.
Trevor?
Yeah, to build on that, I think the first thing I would think of are those huge blowout losses. I mean, it happens so often in the key games. Like, you go down to the Bahamas, you know that Louisville non-conference game to start, the battle for Atlantis is massive, not just for playing Louisville, but to build your whole non-conference schedule by getting on the winner side of that bracket. And you come out and just get destroyed from the tip. I think that's the big thing I would think of. But then on the flip side, just how small a changes could have changed this whole trajectory. Look, like small changes in the recruiting philosophy, getting out more, making more or building better relationships with the players and key people involved. And then on the court, switching to a one big lineup, spacing the floor better, looking for more threes. Not helping so much on drives, stick to three-point shooters. Just, a half step, that changes the whole course of the year. You have so many 1 point, one possession losses this year. But going back, I mean, if you would have made those small changes earlier in his tenure, this whole thing goes on a different path, has a whole different outcome. But it was just the inability or the unwillingness to make those small changes that I think really held back the Mike Woodson tenure at IU.
We'll ultimately see if Indiana lives to see another day in the NCAA Tournament. Selecta Sunday coming up here in a couple days, but for now, Indiana falls to Oregon here in the Big Ten Tournament second round. Peegs.com's Jeff Rabjohns, Trevor Andershock, Jerry Kelly. Well, much more to come over on the site.